Need roll call?
Chairperson Barton,
Present.
Commissioner Carpenter,
Present.
Commissioner Phelps,
Present.
Attorney Phelan, Lieutenant Bowling. Here, you here?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay,
No minutes.
Okay,
Vincent.
okay, we'll hold them on to the next meeting. All right, we have before us a number of one-day licenses. The Lynn Auditorium for Friday, March 16th. The Lynn
Chairperson,
Auditorium.
I'll make a motion to accept all of the one-day licenses.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and at this time, I'd like to suggest that perhaps we bring in the Lynn Auditorium and the Lynn Museum for our next meeting, and ask them to come here to submit an application. We seem to be giving out an awful lot of,
Agreed. That's been
One-day
discussed
licenses.
before, and I agree strongly that they should make a move to obtain a license.
Make that the formal motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Common Victor, Caribe Restaurant. Someone here from Caribe Restaurant?
61 Franklin Street.
Okay, anyone here from Knights of Pythias, change of manager? Hello.
Yes,
And you are Joseph?
I'm Joseph Asper.
Madam Chairperson, I think everybody may be familiar with Mr. Haskell, and we were very familiar with Mr. Cronin.
I've known him
Subsequent to
for
that,
20 years.
I know they've already obtained a copy of our rules and regulations, and full confidence, the chair will be able to handle the job. Make a motion that we approve the
Second that.
change of manager.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, then we have a change of directors, stockholders, William Mahoney, 47 Central Avenue, Max's Club.
Bill?
Evening, Madam Chair, and members. James Sippel, letter 385, representing William Mo LLC. Mr. Mahoney is here, and I believe there may be two matters on. One is the change of DA to DBA, one is the change of officer or directors. This is a petition by the licensee for Fred Balboni to become a 50% shareholder in the LLC. He will be taking out the ownership of Bill Mahoney's mother, Ann, and then they will be 50-50 partners in the license establishment. I believe all of Fred's biographical and information is on file. Seems to be pretty clean to me. And looks like that there would be no impediment at the ABCC.
I just have one question, Madam Chairperson. Are there any liens or anything on the property or on the license that would affect this change of stockholders?
No, there would not.
I don't have any questions.
Make a motion to approve the change in stockholders?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Just one
Thank you.
comment
Yes.
before you go, to Mr. Mahoney, if I could. Who's responsible for the alley between your place and the back side of the Hawthorne?
We don't seem to know. I just went to City Hall and they kind of like indicated it belonged to the landlord.
Well, could somebody, you'd be doing us a huge favor if you could take the initiative, just clean that up?
Oh, we used to clean up in the springtime and all and keep it going all the way
I
through
mean,
the summer.
it needs a little more attention than that.
Right.
I went through today, there's broken glass, cigarettes,
Right.
liquor bottles, all kinds of things that, so if you do us the favor, if
Yeah.
you don't own it, clean
Okay,
it
no
up.
problem.
Would appreciate it. Thank you.
No.
Thank you very much.
DBA.
Okay, so all set.
DBA.
DBA.
Make a motion that we approve the change in DBA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, gotcha. I'll change it again. Thank you. Okay, Okay, moving right along, new license for Aspira Inc., 877 Western Avenue.
Second reading now.
Madam Chairman, this is Mr. and Mr. Chair. They're the new owners at what was formerly Med. Sock has got experience, has worked in a restaurant in the past. I brought with me, sometimes the testimonial is the best evidence of people's abilities and the quality of the product that they put up. What's significant at the moment to look at this review that was in the Boston Globe is that when the reporter got his bill at the end of the night, he thought that they knew he was a reporter because, and I think he says it in there, because the price was so reasonable, he thought he was getting a favorite deal. But in reality, that wasn't the case. Here is the menu. If you recall, there'd been a license at this location in the past. The previous owner at the Medheap was an individual who moved to Texas, and he was the manager. And then his sister, who was here and running the operation, was not an American citizen. And ultimately, rather than keep the business, they ultimately decided to sell it. And that's where these folks came along. They opened and they have a common victualler, and they've been working the restaurant and the food business, and now they would like to have a liquor license. They plan only to replace the existing bar and not move the location of the bar. It's a restaurant where service would be by waitresses, and the bulk of the business is the food business, but there are people who want, especially at night, to have an alcoholic beverage. The hours that they're asking for are the same hours that were listed when they got their common victualler license. And I haven't filled this out, but if you split and compare this to the common victualler application, they're the same hours. Essentially, they're 9 o'clock at night, and on weekends it's midnight. Next Tuesday night is the next tips class at North Shore Community College, and they both enrolled, and they're going to take some of the wait staff with them, and they're all be tip certified by the end of next week. But certainly long before this works its way through the ABCC.
Great menu.
Nice item, nice write-up.
They run a nice place. Motion to approve the new license.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And then we have a transfer of license for baseball for good.
How are you?
Well,
Madam Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Rich Cameron. I'm an attorney here in Lynn, down on 159 Washington Street. This is an application for transfer of the seasonal beer and wine license at 365 Western Avenue, which is the home of the North Shore Navigators, from current licensee, which is Baseball for Good. Mr. Haley is here from Baseball for Good, to the proposed transferee, which is Salvi Sports New England. Mr. Salvi is here. Patrick Salvi is the principal of Salvi Sports New England, and Mr. Bill Terlecki is also here this evening. Mr. Terlecki is the general manager of the team, and would also be the manager of record for the liquor license. We're asking for the transfer pursuant to a sale of the team. You may have read in the paper that the team was recently sold from Mr. Haley to Mr. Salvi. There was a purchase and sale agreement that was submitted as part of the application process that details the financial aspects and other aspects of the transaction. The company, Salvi Sports New England, was recently formed about a month ago. It's a Massachusetts limited liability company. Its funding comes from personal funds of Mr. Salvi and his wife. We submitted with our application financial data sort of outlining where those funds came from. Mr. and Mrs. Salvi own a company called PLS Holdings, which is their personal company, and the funds to Salvi Sports New England came from PLS Holdings, which is their company. The league that is there now is what was called the New England Collegiate Baseball League. It's a collegiate league. Basically, it is for players who are juniors, sophomores, and freshmen in college. It's specifically designed for them, and they use exclusively wooden bats in this particular league, as opposed to most leagues which use wooden, metal and aluminum type bats. So basically, it's a league that prepares players for Major League Baseball, gets them ready to use wooden bats, much like the Cape Cod Baseball League. As I indicated, Mr. Chalecki is here. He is an experienced general manager. He's operated many teams around the company, around the country. I think we detailed in his history the various teams that he's worked for. He has experience in running these kinds of operations and the liquor licenses that go with them. Mr. Chalecki recently moved to Swampscott, so he's here. He works full-time up at the stadium at Frazier Field, and now, as I say, lives in Swampscott, so he would be available in case he's needed for any aspect of the liquor license. Mr. Haley is here. He has run the team up until this point. We've had a great involvement with the community, with local teams, especially area high schools and Little League teams, and Mr. Salvi intends to continue that commitment to the community and to those local area teams. Mr. Salvi, by way of sort of introduction, is an attorney from Chicago, a highly successful attorney. Mr. Salvi also owns two other minor league baseball franchises, the Schaumburg, Illinois Boomers and the Gary, Indiana Railcats. Both of those operations are first-class minor league baseball operations, and I can assure you that Mr. Salvi will make this operation here in Lynn the Navigators a first-class operation. So they're here. I think that's our presentation. I don't know if the board has any questions. It's up to either Mr. Haley as the seller or Mr. Salvi or Mr. Chalecki. One thing I do want to mention briefly, you may have read we had a meeting with the Lynn Stadium Commission about 3 weeks ago. Originally, the way that it was scheduled to go is that Baseball for Good and Mr. Haley's company was going to be the lessee under that lease with the Stadium Commission. It's a brand new lease. It's a 3-year lease. It runs for seasons 2012, 2013, and it ends on August 31st of 2014. We got permission from the Stadium Commission to either have that lease assigned to us, to Salvi Sports New England, or to do a new lease. And in talking with the city solicitor's office, we decided that the better way to go on that, rather than having two different documents, was probably just to have one lease directly from the city with Salvi Sports New England. So we're in the process of doing that. It just needs a couple of signatures, and it should be all set to go. Attorney Phelan may be able to speak to that or answer any questions that the board has, but we've already been voted approval, so it's really just the mechanics of getting everybody's signature on the lease.
There would be no problem with, if the board were inclined to vote for this, which I believe they would be, to vote for it contingent upon receiving a signed lease afterwards, which is, from my research and was speaking with council, it's on the way. So, not to delay anything, the season doesn't start for a while, we should vote, there should be a vote taken, if there is one, contingent upon us receiving the lease.
That would certainly be fine.
Anyone else have any questions?
The only question, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
Just a comment, first of all, congratulations and thank you, and we wish you the best of luck. We're very happy to have you. Just maybe a brief explanation of how you're going to be serving. You're going to have beer stands located at different locations?
I'll let Bill address that. Yeah, there'll be a few locations. We haven't totally mapped out the site yet to know where they'll be. As you know, there's a deck that overlooks the third base side. There'll be beer there. There'll be beer somewhere behind home plate, maybe one other spot. There'll be limits. It'll be 2 beers per customer. That's all you'll be allowed to get. We plan on checking everybody's ID, pretty much standard procedure here for any other sporting event in the state of Massachusetts. We also plan on cutting off the sale of alcohol at the end of the third inning, or excuse me, the end of the seventh inning. Well, all of a sudden, you guys, nobody was going anymore. I don't know where that came from. The end of the seventh inning, and, you know, but there'll be no, in accordance, obviously, there'll be no beer promotions or anything like that, you know, and beer will be reasonably priced, but it won't be inexpensive. I mean, you know, so it'll be properly priced, you know.
I have no further questions.
It's just, it'll just be beer, not beer and wine, just beer?
I haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, if our, Rich, does our license provide for
Well,
one?
yeah, the lease, yeah, the lease allows it, I don't know that it's been done, but it would be under the same circumstances as the beer sales.
I could see maybe on a special night or two where we have a promotion, but on most nights, it'll be pretty much beer.
We could have wine for you.
We'll be served that the first day.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Next question. Why did you move to Swampscott, not Lynn?
I'm right on the border, right on the border, man. This is just a schedule, so you know what we've got going, and all my contact information is on the bottom. Yeah. No, I can walk to Lynn in 2 minutes. I'm right there at the border.
Make a motion to approve the transfer of license.
Second, do we need to?
Yeah, I think we need with the
This,
stipulation that we get the lease.
Okay. Whatever stipulations.
stipulations, the lease is approved.
Are those acceptable?
Yes, it is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so we'll just move right along. Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, here we have a continued hearing on something irresistible. Good evening. Good evening. You here tonight to present us with your plan?
Yes.
All right.
First, I just wanted to point out to the commissioners that we are continuing to market the property. My client agreed to a substantial price reduction. This does include the building, so he's still looking for an exit strategy. Just a few days ago, we reduced the price. We had some interest recently. Another co-broker brought folks that looked at it for purposes of the church. Unfortunately, the parking situation didn't work out for them because they had a lot of members. Right now they're renting, but you know, I could care less if they keep the liquor license or not, you know, so that was not a stumbling block what the parking was, so I just want to show you that we're moving on in that direction. To the other ends, I just wanted to present here. We have a security plan that we put together. The security plan outlines door personnel, what their jobs are, floor personnel, and bartender personnel. It also covers checking IDs, patrolling the property, in addition, what to do if someone has a false ID, when to call the police, all consistent with the rules and regulations of the liquor licensing board, I'm sure you see. My client has also produced a menu. Now, this is not David Louis here, but it is a menu, and it is more geared towards what he's able to what he's able to do as comfort food. My client, again, is still looking to sell the property and leave, but until then, he's incurring some substantial credit card debt in order to keep the mortgage afloat, while this is trying to happen. He proposes to be able to open 4 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. He proposes that he has last call at 12:20. No one underage would be admitted. An additional employee, again, like the security plan, will be on the door to check all IDs. If there's a DJ or a special party, he would notify the board immediately. He plans on charging a cover charge of $10 to make sure that no one's in there to start trouble, that they're more interested in actually coming to the establishment. Any additional food specials that are on the blackboard. He proposes that all patrons would be off the premises by 1 a.m., but would like permission to stay, for employees to stay an additional half hour to help clean and cash out. And again, this is all geared towards, as you see, with continuing to market the property. And, you know, at this stage, he's ready to move on, but I told them I just hate to see the building lost as a result of not being able to get some sort of income. But I can assure you, especially after his self-imposed, but basically 3-month loss of license, that he understands that things are not going to be the way they were, and hence the reason why we put all this stuff together for your review.
Okay, well, thank you, Jim, for bringing this in. At least it gives us something that we can see that you're moving forward, and that you have at least good intentions to operate the place in a responsible manner.
I agree. Plan.
You said Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
And Sunday, 4 days,
7 to
7 to 9, last call at 12:20. All patrons off the premises by 1, and you're just seeking to have many employees take my eye for an extra half hour to clean.
Is that standard for most
Yes.
places?
It's right on the license.
The plan also discusses how to handle intoxicated persons, or how to identify intoxicated persons, what level to use to, you know, get them out, call the police, what bartenders should do to identify, of course, the standing tips training as well.
And I like the fact that you're going to screen patrons as they're waiting in line to come in.
That's
Because
another-
simple communication skills, it's excellent.
I
Very
did
good.
go through college, so that's, that's where I came up with that.
Right, that's very good.
Just look at this quickly. I assume somewhere around here, there'll be people patrolling outside, like from the alleyway there, and
Yeah, what we have in here as well is that the doorman is not to leave the door unless he's relieved, and that they're responsible for observing the outside. Also, the floor man is not to be, for example, cleaning up the ashtray. His only job is to walk around with a shirt that, you know, says something to the effect of security, a bright colored shirt, so people can see that there is someone who's scrutinizing their conduct. So that's all in the plan. And I'm gonna, you know, as soon as he hires these people, I will go over this with them, make sure they understand what their responsibilities are.
And it's spelled out, black and white, right here.
Right
that
here.
They call the police. They call the police.
Exactly, including if someone's injured, and if they
Exactly.
refuse treatment,
Exactly.
they would still be
Exactly.
required to call the police,
Mhm.
whether they refuse treatment or not.
Right.
there's one word here, we're under the last part there, disturbances including fights.
Yes.
We'll ask anyone who's fighting to leave, if necessary, we'll call local law enforcement. I think we're talking fights specifically.
You know what I'm saying? 2 in the morning when I was doing this, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, if there's a fight, they have to call the police.
Yeah.
In general, what most of the language of this talks about is how to avoid that from escalating, one, by watching the consumption of alcohol, but also by how to, you know, if there's a fight, you don't jump in and fight the person who's fighting, you just try to talk to them, you try to, you know, move them over aside, but what I used to do is like, yeah, I know that guy's an idiot, you know?
The local rules state to call by any disturbance right
Call the
away.
police.
Immediately. Stops, gets before the fight starts.
Exactly.
And it says it right here, the police will be called in a timely manner anytime management or staff has information to believe a crime has been or is about to be committed, or whenever a threat of or act of violence occurs on the premises.
I can tell you, I will never hold it against you if you call the police.
Never.
The mere fact of you calling the police is not a black mark in my book.
And to be safe than sorry.
Okay.
The only other comment I have, Jim, and I know it's been a difficult time the last few months, and I appreciate your patience in going back, but I think you understand now that the days of opening up at 11, closing at 1, not serving food, not having adequate security are gone.
I hear this all the time.
So just, I want you to know I appreciate you taking the time to put all this together. And we want you to succeed. We don't want you to go out of business. But at the same time, you have to succeed by following pretty much what you put together here tonight.
It's a good plan, it's a very good plan.
Madam Chairperson, we do have to address the idea of discipline for what's happening here also. I think we can, if I can speak for the board, I think we can agree on time served, as he's been closed for so long, but I would make a motion for a 10-day suspension to be put in the record, considered time served, and that would apply to the various violations that are outlined in the notice letters.
I'll second that.
All right, I don't know, should we put something in that if there are further problems, that the license will be revoked? Because I think
Sure.
we've offered all possible.
So would you like amendment that 10 days considered as time served?
Exactly.
And should there be additional violations found at the establishment, that we stand that we would revoke the license immediately?
So for the record, you're finding that there were 4 actual violations that occurred that are listed in the notice. That would be the drinking in public, open container, failure to cooperate with the police, lack of management control, and 2 counts.
Yeah, 7 to 9.
And that's what we're saying, we're looking at time served as serving years.
Correct.
Just one last question. When do you plan on opening? Thursday night?
Friday night, you're saying? Better get this menu together by then. So, you have the motion, you have the second?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Good luck.
Good
Good luck,
Thank you.
really, good luck. Now it's done. Now it's done, okay. Okay. Continued hearing on the Westbrook Cafe.
On Westroff?
Madam Chairman, I think we
Yeah.
left this open.
Is there any more information?
Detective Chadbourne, who investigated the assault, actually indicated that the victim was willing to come testify before the board. He is on vacation. I told him to re-interview her and formulate a report. He hasn't got back to me yet, but he is on vacation. I spoke to Officer Aylward today. She indicated to me that at no time did the victim go to the bar or ask to be served. It was the male party, the suspect, that provided her with the alcohol.
So do you think, Lieutenant Hall, you just asked, do you think there's enough, is there any evidence that actually
That she, no.
shows that she was in the
Right.
establishment? And
Oh, she was definitely in the establishment.
Any evidence that there was a violation
No.
occurred by the licensed
No.
premises?
I would say that, it sounds to me like you folks have really dodged a very serious bullet here, and I think you really need to be very careful who comes into your establishment. Minors are coming in, you gotta make sure they're not drinking. I mean, she wasn't at the bar, but she was in the establishment. The rest, as they say, is history, but you dodged a big bullet here. I would advise you to be very, very careful.
No, I just want to be sure, Counsel, that the client understands, I know there's a language barrier, he understands everything that's transpired here and what the board is saying to him, but we consider this to have been a very serious problem. But the evidence falls short of implicating the way he managed his property, but do you you understand everything we're talking
I
about?
understand maybe 75%.
Yeah.
when they show
Uh-huh.
up.
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir, we just want to be sure that he understands the seriousness of this whole matter
Yo quiero que tú entiendas la seriedad de este problema
and the fact that the Lynn Police conducted a lengthy investigation into this whole matter.
y que la policía de Lynn hizo una investigación larga
And that it was determined that this young lady was in his premises,
y que fue determinado que la muchacha estaba en el lugar,
but that there's no evidence that implicates the way he's managed his property.
pero que no había ninguna evidencia que implique como uno está manejando la propiedad,
And shows a violation.
que demuestra alguna violación.
But at the same time, it's a very, very close call for him. He has to take this very seriously.
Al mismo tiempo fue una llamada muy cercana, hay que tomarlo en serio, en el hecho de que no entre ninguna mejora.
Apparently what happened is, it sounds like the gentleman that she was with went to the bar, purchased alcohol at the bar, and brought it back to the table, and she consumed alcohol there.
Estamos hablando que alguien fue que le compró el alcohol y se lo llevó a ella.
So I'm saying you really have to be careful
Hay que tener cuidado.
who's buying drinks at the bar and bringing them back to the table. Perhaps there should be a wait staff serving at the table, and not someone coming from the bar and bringing the
Lo que
drinks.
mejor sería que las
Just to
meseras
protect yourself.
sirvieran a las mesas antes que una persona venga y busque algo al bar para llevárselo a otra persona. Sería algo como, digamos, educar a estos
Pero que a veces no tenían la mesa, no queda la mesera, a veces tenían la barra, el tío.
por eso ella está diciendo que sería mejor que si está vacío, como está más o menos, que la persona fuese a, que la mesera que lo atendiera antes que cuando está con dinero, básicamente. Well, explain to him that maybe when they have a minor or whoever comes in with a minor, rather than the person going to the bar, that it should be served. by a
Exactly,
waitress.
exactly, exactly.
It's indicating that Pedro is the one that's in charge of checking IDs all the time, so he's gonna make sure. that-
Okay, great.
Police officers have anything?
No, other than it was a close
It
call.
was a close-
As you indicated before, you should have been a lot more careful. There was only 20 people in the bar, and somebody should have noticed that she was.
So, básicamente, como indicaron, está habiendo una 20 personas que hubiese sido más cuidadosos.
Sorry, but.
That would make a motion to dismiss.
Dismissed with no finding, yeah.
But I'm sorry, Attorney Phelan did suggest that we make this subject to recall if Lieutenant Holy of the Lynn Police investigation determines anything in the future that may be
It's still
relevant.
ongoing investigation.
Investigation
It's
still
ongoing.
Ahora mismo lo están dejando ir, pero si en algún dado caso tienen que llamarte otra vez porque es una investigación que está abierta acerca de eso. There's no problem, I'll come.
A second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, then we have a hearing on J Pacifica. Hello.
How are you?
Good evening.
Just give Debbie your names.
You want to state your name for the record, please?
Charlie Clark.
Tell me more, okay.
Yeah.
And you are?
And Alan G, that's A-L-L-E-N, last name G-E.
Maybe you could just explain why you're here with them.
Also, I'm here on behalf of my code to interpret
Okay.
English's. English.
You also work.
Yeah, actually, I also work part-time at the J Pacific also.
All right, let's get this out. Okay, well, you know why you're here, because
Yeah.
of serving the alcohol to a minor. Very serious offense, and I just don't understand, who is the wait person? I mean, how could someone not notice this going on?
Actually, we got a picture, that's taken, like, I guess bird's eye view from standing right here.
Uh-huh.
And from what I understand, there were patrons standing up,
Oh.
so the bartender being a little further back were, I guess, shaded or what from the feet of the table and, and an empty canister. And it was actually a waitress's table. She was actually a new hire at that time. She only been with the restaurant for 2 months actually. And she's still, I guess, learning ropes and, still, integrating her and make sure that the bartender and the wait staff work hand in hand, make sure that something like this, doesn't,
I
happen in the
mean,
future.
do you serve cans at the
No,
restaurant?
it's,
Yeah. And
bottles.
there's cans on the table
Right.
too, that's total lack of supervision
Understand.
going on, really. So you've taken steps to remedy that?
Right. And actually, in regard to underage or minor, there wasn't anyone found on the premises in regard to that, anyone under 21. I believe the multiple officers that basically checked everybody's ID.
Essentially what happened is there was a disturbance there.
Right.
I entered the bar and was directed to the back of the bar to find the person who was causing the disturbance. As I entered the bar, I observed the crowd to be very young, unusual for J Pacific. And as I went to the back of the bar, the rascals, who were all in rage, went out the front door, leaving us behind. So there was serious lack of control of the establishment at the time. The other issue I had was the taking of New Hampshire IDs. They were all New Hampshire college kids. And you have no defense when you take a New Hampshire ID. And so you have to be careful. And in my estimation, they all said they were 21 New Hampshire IDs, but I'm not sure in fact if they were 21.
I understand. Actually, in the future, for instance, you need a driver's license or mass ID if they,
Right.
say go to school here or a passport or any kind of military ID. They're valid for my ID also.
Now, I know he's shown it to me. Your bartender is tip string.
Correct.
The waitress, even though she's new, she should really get trained. And that's part of our rules. She's gonna be serving alcohol, she needs to be tip string. Okay?
And they should be trained before they're actually serving the alcohol.
Correct.
Okay. And this, as you know, is embarrassing, okay? To you folks and to the city. The whole thing. When the police came in and asked the bartender, he didn't know who was in charge. Who was in charge that day?
It was actually Michael. He actually had stepped up briefly to make the delivery order actually.
You've been in since checking IDs?
Oh, yeah. We've been in, and they were fine. The crowd that night was unusual for J Pacific, and I've been in a couple of times, they've been okay.
Was it extra busy that night because it was Christmas night?
It was actually, so I guess at one time, because they've been in business for 7 years, and around Christmas time, it's,
When kids are home from school.
Correct, yeah.
They hit a party.
right, but usually it's, it's manageable crowd, and, nothing like this happened in the past, so just, I guess an aberration, I want to say. Unfortunate one, but.
Can I just ask Lieutenant Holly a question? Did we actually determine that anyone was under 21, or was it just?
No, it was, yeah.
Okay.
It's more or less hearsay based upon what the irate young lady who was actually 21 ratted to the others out who got mad. Well, again, it's a serious offense.
Did they order any food at the table?
Didn't look like there was food.
That's a time when they need to. Just the.
What caused you to call the police?
Actually, there was one patron who was looking to get an additional drink, and the bartender shut him off. He says, you had your fill for the night, thank you, it's time to move on, and I guess he didn't agree with the bartender. And so then the bartender called the local police, and for some reason, some time passed, and I guess nobody immediate response, and I believe the patron called also. And after that, then the authorities arrived.
Do you know where the two calls? Do you know, Lieutenant?
Who?
Do you know if there were 2 calls made?
No. I was in Wayne Square when the call was given out.
The first call, the bartender called, and the second one, the customer called.
I don't doubt that the bar called it, that's what it.
Just have a suspension, you could leave it in the days.
I'd like to make a motion that we find that you can't say that right, an illegality has occurred, specifically that the establishment allowed outside alcohol to be brought in into their establishment. I think that's about the only one. So lack of management control. Can we say improper IDs and?
They shouldn't be using that
They
state
can't
IDs.
Well, they are the people, then it's,
Right.
then it's fine. It's just, you can't, it's not a defense if you rely upon an out-of-state license.
It's wrong.
And it's wrong. If it's a Massachusetts license and you reasonably rely upon it, then that's a defense. But if you use an out-of-state license, it's no defense whatsoever. So, there still isn't any evidence that there was an underage person consuming.
Right.
And I think you understand that?
Right.
Through conversations you've had with some people?
Yes.
So further in, okay, fine. And we'd make a motion that we suspend the establishment's license for 3 days and hold that in abeyance for a year. Hopefully there won't be any other problems up there.
Second motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Understand that?
Yes.
Means within 1 year, if you do anything else wrong, the 3 days automatically reposed.
And
And then you'll have new discipline for the new violation.
We have confidence that won't happen. Okay.
Thank you.
first time in 7 years been up there, huh?
Yes.
Good job.
See you again in 10.
If we don't see you
10
again,
years.
they'll be swell. Okay. Good night. All right, we're gonna hold off on the woman houses. Is anyone here from any of the woman houses, Apollo Hotel? You hear from the Apollo? No? Which woman house you hear from?
Apollo.
Apollo. We understand all your paperwork and submitted.
That's from Andy.
So it's back.
No, he's gotta, you gotta bring, you know, the sheet that has the 3 signatures on it?
Yes,
That has to come back to me in a $50 fee.
yes, that's the one that I misplaced. So I have to go back
And get them all to sign.
sign them again.
Okay.
We're all set as far as
Inspections.
and everything.
Okay, so when do you think you'll bring?
I'll go come back tomorrow morning to get a new copy that
Okay,
they're
all
offering.
right, all right.
So,
You need to do that immediately, though. You shouldn't be operating without that. So you need to do that.
Get the signatures,
Right,
get it right back down.
Who's going to sign it?
Hmm?
Who has to sign it?
The fire
Inspection will serve.
Health,
inspection
health
service.
and building.
Yeah. building.
So you need to be,
Well, they've all signed it. I was supposed to bring it back to City Hall, to Debbie to
Right.
get the paper, and I lost it.
Let's get it done.
Now you gotta go back.
I have to
and
go
get all
back
that.
and do it.
Okay,
please
do it
do that
tomorrow.
first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And those, send those to Carl.
Gentle Touch, they came back in the mail.
Okay.
I don't know if they're open. If somebody, we can send somebody out to check on that at 112 Union Street. Okay.
Remind me? If not, give me a call.
Laundromat or massage parlor?
What is it? It's a restaurant?
It's a restaurant. Yes.
I believe it's still under renovation, actually. Yeah.
Let's see. Sorry?
Information.
Oh, okay.
Well, back,
Okay.
That's just a
We-
communications.
Yeah. Just need a motion to accept all four.
Motion to accept communications.
Second.
Okay, and girls and boys and parent initiatives, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna take out everything. Are we gonna take out everything up to the girls and $250? Yeah. Want to do that? Yeah. All right. Then we have,
Fundraising.
yeah. Then we'll have the follow police reports. What's your pleasure? Cafe El Molino, Northern Nights, O'Brien's. Was it open after hours and serving?
Well, this was the,
Northern
first one
Lights.
is the accident.
Oh yeah, the accident.
The accident
Yeah,
victim?
cafe,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we should bring them in.
Yep. that's good.
And Northern Nights and O'Brien's, probably the same thing, bring them in because they're
Yeah,
open.
after hours?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Definitely. All the alcohol. You have a
Well,
sand
the alcohol
also?
compliance ones, I think we should bring them in and let them know how, both big dogs.
Yeah, they dodged the bullet. and that-
Can you just tell me
it
what
wasn't
you're
done-
doing that night?
Which one?
It was a different way of doing it, it wasn't done with the ABCC.
Compliance, was it
So we're not gonna be able to.
like real obvious?
Was there any discipline?
Uh,
What you call it for some?
O'Brien's,
No, he's talking about the compliance, not the,
oh, the compliance checks,
Yeah.
yeah. It was non-punitive,
Yeah,
educational only.
yeah.
The IDs, they were all expired. One was 20 years
older.
older.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
uh,
They're the improper
45%
identifications,
failure rate.
is this one.
Yeah.
They're all doing a great job asking for the IDs.
Right.
They're just
They're
not looking at
That's
them.
right, the ABCC hoop, they're jumping right through it.
So,
Yeah.
and this follows, a couple of months ago, we delivered ID toolkits to all the package stores. So, you know, they didn't look at them or, you know, they're all doing a good job of asking for the ID, they're doing a horrible job of checking them.
Okay,
You know, 55% of them did check it and, you know,
yeah.
say no way, but.
So I said, let's bring them in and let them know.
Absolutely.
We need to do a better job of explaining the,
Right.
Do you want a conference or a hearing?
Well, we can't take
probably,
this
yeah,
one.
conference.
Please.
Did you see Andrew Lickers was on the list there?
Yeah, I know.
And we
I
have
know.
two others, Glen Ostra
They
and
couldn't wait to
Sandra.
find that.
I think those both hearings too, aren't they?
It's not the same.
Where-
That's-
Oh, yes, yes,
That was-
yes.
Glen Ostra is again the fight across the street.
Right.
I don't- I mean,
Yeah.
how often can we just,
I know.
there's nothing we can,
Well, it's not
I
on the
know, they
property.
could, right, it wasn't on the property, so.
Unfortunate.
Just bring them in again and let them know they dodged another bullet. It takes like strike two, and you
Conference?
know what's gonna
Sure.
happen, yeah.
Conference?
Yeah.
What about
They're gonna do it
Sandbar?
better.
Sandbar.
And Sandbar, same thing.
It can go to their closing time if it's happening consistently outside for the public's need.
Right.
So they may wanna
Rethink.
rethink how they're letting people out or
Exactly.
what they're doing.
And the Sandbar was a late closing too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hearing. All right, new business, annual report to ABCC. Very good, Debbie. Wow, you keep some.
It's been on the Blue Note, isn't it?
Well,
Nothing.
on the book?
Blue Note?
Not a word.
Not a word.
Probably left us all out.
Review of rules and regulations. Anyone have any
Parking lot.
comments, questions, concerns?
I gave,
Good.
that happened, remember. Do the supplemental rules need to remain as supplemental rules?
No, there can be a motion to have them put them into the regular rules.
Because we're joining the 21st century.
The supplemental rules were, the promoters, entertainers, agents, under 21 events.
And now this new one, commissioner email address.
There's one, in bold, all right, make a specific thing that licensed area must have windows that can allow the public to see the licensed area. Isn't that for everyone though?
It is.
That's the only one we talk about is,
But it is for all, if it's existing the way it is now, we can't have them change it, but the way, they can't close up their windows at this point. So it can be altered to have it to all license holders.
sometimes we talk about.
Seems like some people need some new licenses.
Oh,
The ones we had posted are all tattered, torn, and.
Bottom,
Last time I
under
did.
one.
Uncorked wine.
Do we need to mention that in here?
I think it's state law, so that.
Okay, so we don't need to
we
be
don't need to have it
specific,
as a
even though
local
we
rule.
say no bottles can be.
Yep.
Okay. So, with the two new rules,
What are the two rules? I say
the
one.
email,
I see the email the same way. I have, actually, I have 2 pages of the email, so maybe I'm missing one.
and
Yeah, that's for New Year's Eve.
Oh, these, okay.
proposal for the
Right.
museum.
Are we gonna go forward with that?
Sure.
What do we need?
The,
The,
hearing?
But we've posted it for a public
This
hearing
is
this
a public
evening.
hearing part. I guess everybody's interested in it.
What are we
You
doing?
know,
with
they-
the-
I think we're all in favor of it. Having to have, clean record and, have to, yep. Have to have approval of their, endorsement of the ward counselor and, approval by the police chief's, representative. Anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of, the pro-council?
I was just wondering, excuse me, Jay Collins, Friends Place for the record.
Jay, just before you go into this, I should just state for the record that the Kevin Coppinger, the police chief, is my brother, and I have discussed this matter with him. Okay, sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to know, are you guys gonna be giving us an application for that we go to?
It would be an application.
Okay, so you're taking care of that.
Yep.
My second question was on the Sunday, which I'm not really a fan of this, but I guess you can serve earlier.
Yes.
I have that with me, I don't know if you were supposed to mail it in or.
So take it.
Okay,
I can take it, but you need to bring me the license so I can retype your license.
okay.
Are you serving brunch with it, Jay?
What's
Yeah, we
that?
serve
For
food.
early Sunday? What you talking about?
Well, that was, I guess before I even do this, is this something you have to do every Sunday?
No.
It is not.
Well,
So in other words, if I have a special event, I could do this but not have to do it every
Once
Sunday.
you
And I'm-
establish an opening time, you're supposed to comply with it.
Or let us know that you're not gonna be doing that.
So you basically
So
say.
if you
this
say
has to be
10 o'clock,
done.
you're supposed to open at 10 a.m.
Yeah, no, then I'm not.
You could send us a letter every week saying,
Right.
I'm
So
not
if I had a
opening.
special occasion that I wanted to open early, I could come here and
Yeah.
get it granted for one night.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a
Would
good
he even have to
suggestion,
come
but I know
here,
you
or would he
would
have
do
to
it.
go
I was
to-
gonna
He would
say
have to
2
come.
hours for one.
Come here.
My other question is regarding the licenses. Sometimes you have college kids that move up to the area during, is it, I wouldn't want to do it every night, but I actually have 3 kids that are willing, if the police wanted to check their ID. One of them's New York, I think it's a Maine and a New Hampshire, but I don't want to go and take the chance. So we've been letting them in, but they can't drink. They don't get a band. Now, if we called the police, is that like a no-no, or is that putting them?
To do what?
In other words, to
Them checking?
verify that their New York license is.
Well, if they falsified identification with the state of New York, we're not
So
gonna.
there's
get
no
them.
way you
Right,
can.
Right.
Are they living there now, or they just?
Well, he has his social security plus the
But then
license.
you get a mass ID of.
Right.
You move here, you're supposed to get a license
Right.
immediately.
No, they're college kids.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess they could get a mass ID, right?
They're college kids from New York living here.
Right.
Yeah, they
Well,
get a
going to
mass
school.
ID. Yeah, they get a mass ID.
Okay. All right, and there was one more thing. Boston must be the town that gets all this crazy stuff voted in with the APCC. The first ones to do the 18 plus, the first ones to do the 18-year-olds serving alcohol. Now the latest thing that they're doing in the clubs in Boston, this group comes in and you want to buy a bottle of Grey Goose. Okay, you can buy the bottle, but I have to have a licensed, well, not licensed, a bartender and a tip certified person serving you all night long. And that's been legal quote-unquote Boston. I don't know, I
So you're
know.
basically having a personal bartender at the table?
Exactly, so I don't know,
The
I
bottles
don't
on
wanna
the
go and
table?
do something,
Bottles on-
get in trouble.
Is
Bottles
it
on
more
the
like
table?
cabaret
No,
style?
well, the bottle belongs to the table,
Yeah.
yes, it is there, but the bartender never leaves that area.
The way it happens.
Or the person responsible.
The server
Has
actually
to be
has
at
the bottle.
Right.
And if you want a drink, you
In
go to
other
the
words,
server.
you couldn't serve it, they have.
You buy the bottle and you get the server that comes with it.
Right.
It costs you about $400.
Yeah.
Are they doing that on their own, or is that allowed under, I think it's allowed under the ABCC rules, maybe the Boston License Commission is. I don't know.
I figure that's something.
I gotta research that tomorrow first thing.
Yeah, you can check with them, but I don't wanna go into anything. But it's just, when you're in the nightclub business,
No, I understand.
you
But
know,
right now, I think we consider that a violation.
but is it something you can look into, or?
Okay, yes, I'll look into that.
Okay.
I'll definitely check to see what they have.
All right, and you can get back to,
Yep, absolutely.
okay. Debbie, one more thing, on that application, can you put a spot to the email too? I know you requested that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sending a letter
Okay.
out
All
as
right.
soon as we vote on that. We haven't voted on that just yet, the email.
Okay.
As a supplemental.
Yeah.
The only other concern I had in the New Year's Eve rule was that, I think, what do we put, 45 days?
Yeah, we did put 45 days.
Our meeting is usually the second week of December, so it should either be 45 days prior to that meeting, or maybe November 1st. So that we
Probably
have
the
this
easiest way
time.
would be November
November
1st.
1st, that'd be right.
Make
Clear
it
everybody
simple.
else, make it simple.
So amend, make a motion to amend that?
Yeah, make a motion to amend that to November 1st from 5.
The application has to be into me by November 1st.
By November 1st, right.
So give it time to
Right,
go to the police
with
chief.
all the necessary signatures and all.
Well, with the
They-
ambulance,
It's
yes,
up to
we'll
them
put
to
it
get the right on, isn't it?
No, I think we circulate it once we.
Do you think so? I thought it was on the application.
With like 4th of July, the clerk's office circulates it.
What?
I thought,
Once the application comes in, will you circulate it for the police chief?
I will have to, yeah, it'll be.
And the
it'll be
ward
like they
council too?
do. Yeah, what they do is, for like block parties, we fax one over to the police, we fax one over to each of the people to sign off on it, so.
you can get it back in time. Can you get it back in time?
Um,
And then have it for
November
us.
1st.
Well,
Yeah, if
then
I get
have
it November 1st, then
Gives you
we'll
6
know by
days.
the,
November meeting.
November.
November meeting, and that
Latest
gives them
back
a
up in
month
December.
to advertise that they
Yeah.
have it. Okay.
But nothing says they, I mean, we'd act on it before that if they gave it to us in September.
Right, it's prior to.
Okay.
Make a motion and we adopt both proposed rules as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just one thing, since we've adopted.
Will we have to appeal?
whatnot,
Or is that something you'll?
Can we
I think
get them
that
out
there's
to
a
Girls
problem.
Inc. now and
They
have them?
I will do a fresh copy.
Translated?
I will do a fresh copy of all the spell checks, make sure the supplemental rules are added
It'll just,
in.
it'll,
And
you'll
then
come up
we'll
with
add
it.
these,
Yeah.
the last two. Vincent, am I gonna have to add these last two as a, sorry, that was rude. As supplemental rules?
We can put them in, if you make a motion, make it part of the regular rules at this point in time, because we're gonna be updating supplemental anyway, so we can put it right in there.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And again, do we need a motion to have them translated into other languages? Girls Inc. has volunteered to do this for us.
The
so I
problem that
think
we
it's
had
time.
last time is that it was done in formal Spanish,
That's,
and the translation to, you know, it didn't make, according to the Restaurant Association, they came back and said it didn't make any sense, what they were saying. So I think we'll take them up on that, but I think that we have to sit back and have it in
Maybe
not
have them
formal
do a-
Spanish, it's the dialect that's spoken now.
Latino Business Association.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could probably help us with that.
Okay.
But I do think we should.
maybe they can do
I
a rough
agree.
draft.
The last time we saw it, and they came back in and
Yeah.
said, it doesn't make any sense. What was said, it wasn't a literal, it was a literal translation that didn't really apply.
Okay, I can, get in touch with them.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
As always, in order.